suggestions, it will help you have a garden that looks its best and will be the envy of the neighborhood. Have you ever noticed that when spring arrives and the temperatures warm up, suddenly neighbors you haven't seen all winter long come rushing out of their homes almost as if the gates are open? They're all anxious to get their luscious lawns in shape. And you know what? You see it all. They're seeding, weeding, fertilizing, power raking, aerating, they're blowing, trimming, and of course mowing. And sometimes they're doing it all in one day. Not a good idea. There are some definite do's and don'ts when it comes to spring lawn care that you should know. Now, before you get started doing anything, you need to make a couple of decisions. First of all, do you want to control the crabgrass, or do you want to lay down new lawn seed? Because you can't do both. The crabgrass controller will actually prevent the lawn seed from germinating. So let's say you have crabgrass and you want to control that. Well, you need to attack it early in the spring before it gets out of control. You can use a crabgrass preventer, or for an organic alternative, try corn gluten. Whatever you choose, use a spreader to apply it evenly. The best time to do this is when the daffodils are blooming. And remember, spring rains will help activate the ingredients. Now, if you decide to start a new lawn, or in this case patch an old one, you need to start by loosening up the soil. Just use a rake. Okay, now we're ready for the seed. Make sure whatever you get that it's top quality. You can save a lot of money and buy the seed in bulk, or for more money you can get a product that I really like. It's seed that's mixed with shredded newspaper. This stuff really works. Let me show you how. Apply a thin layer of the lawn patch, making sure you cover up all the open spaces, and then water thoroughly. Now, whether you use the lawn patch or the seed, it's real important that you keep your new bed moist at all times until the seed germinates, which in some cases may take up to 3 weeks. And also, you don't want to mow the grass until it reaches a height of 4 inches. And speaking of mowing, before you take your machine to the turf, it's real important to get it cleaned up and ready for the season. Start by flipping the mower over. You'll want to give the underside a good spring cleaning, and in some cases you may have to pull out a chisel to remove some of the junk. It's also a good idea to keep your blade sharpened. In fact, 3 sharpenings a season will do the trick. Otherwise, your grass will get split ends. Don't you hate when that happens? When you do mow, don't cut off more than 1/3 of the grass at one time, and keep the height about 2.5 to 3 inches. Also, change your mowing pattern. This helps prevent soil compaction, which inhibits the growth of grass. Watering is also an important part of spring lawn care. It's much better to give your lawn a deep soaking once a week rather than a light sprinkling 3 to 4 times a week. Watering early in the morning is best, and keep in mind most lawns need about 1 inch of water a week. Spring is also the time to go on weed patrol. Ha ha! Gotcha! Now, since I don't like to use herbicides, I try to find tools that might help get to the root of the problem, and I have found the Weed Hound always does the trick. The biggest mistake people make with their grass is that they fertilize it to death, literally. The best time to feed your lawn is with 2 applications in the fall. The only reason you would fertilize in the spring is if you miss the fall application. And don't worry if you think your lawn's not getting fed enough, because every time you mow your grass, if you leave the clippings on, you're giving it free nitrogen. And that's the best organic fertilizer you can get. There are some definite don'ts when it comes to spring lawn care. Don't aerate. It can damage the soil because the soil is just too moist in the spring. Plus, aeration opens up areas for weed seeds to germinate. And forget about power raking or dethatching. This is just too hard on the new sensitive spring roots. And finally, in the early spring when your soil is still soggy, try to keep your kids from playing on the grass, and for heaven's sakes, don't be dragging your